Hey, yeah, I'm just really, really grateful to be able to share with you guys. I saw some of the guys that I went on the retreat with, and that's a big part of my sobriety. I've been doing it for years and years and years, and who knows, maybe it's one of the biggest reasons why I'm still sober today. So I'm just really grateful for that retreat, and I'm grateful I got to meet some new guys from that meeting. Yeah, I tried. I guess the first time I got drunk, I was 16 years old, and I had a complete and absolute euphoric feeling, and so I was hooked. I mean, it was like I'd found a cure for all my depression and anxiety and fear and awkward feelings and not feeling like I fit in and not feeling like I belonged anywhere. Because I carried those feelings for a lot of my youth and in my teenage years, all the way up to that first drink, and I had thought I'd found something, I mean, who's not gonna drink if you can heal yourself with a couple drinks? I mean, and it's funny because the longer I've been sober, the longer I've been alive. I realize not everybody gets that feeling, Mine was pretty dramatic. Mine was pretty, world shaking and it just gave me something that I was going to go back to until it didn't work anymore. And that's pretty much what happened because, I got into a lot of other stuff other than alcohol. I always say, somebody asked me one time, what was your, what was your drug of choice, or what was your go-to? And I basically, I only did what was offered, and it was like, if you gave me the high sign, this is going to get me get me out of myself or get me, obliterated. I was going for it. I had no off switch. And so, I drank and used from the time I was 16 till I was 22. And I had a friend that I worked with in Laguna Beach. And he ended up going to AA. And he was my drinking buddy. And eventually I could see a difference in him, I eventually kind of went with him to an AA meeting and to check it out, and it was great. And people were nice, and I detoxed, and I started feeling physically better at first, and then I stayed sober for a while. The problem was I didn't know what alcoholism really was. I didn't really understand that really drinking and using is really not my problem. It was a solution to my problem. It was something that would, give me the comfort and the ease that I was looking for. But my problem is that when I got sober for a long enough period without any kind of spiritual help and any kind of working 12 steps or any kind of program, or not being just flat out not being serious enough in my AA program while I was still in AA, eventually my mind would get to a point where I literally have to drink. I have a brain and a nervous system that can't handle this world on its own, and it shorts out. And I kept doing that over and over again. I kept, going back, going in and out of AA, and that, for me, that lasted like almost 10 years. In and out, and within that time, I got married, and I bought a house, and I had a good job and stuff, and all those good things that would come to me while I was sober. And the minute I started drinking and using, they'd all go away. The marriage went away. Being in my daughter's life went away. Working went away. I just, I would revert back to, I just want to be a teenager running the streets getting loaded. That was what I thought was, what would make me happy. I just hated responsibility, and I hated the fact that I couldn't handle my mind, without drinking and using. And so eventually I had the time before this sobriety, I had 2.5 years, and I was in the program, and I went into the deepest, darkest depression sober I ever experienced in my life. And I really felt like what the disease was. I was just literally, I got to a point where I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was just in this deep, dark depression. I was sober 2.5 years. So something the fuck was wrong, and, eventually I literally had to drink a beer so I wouldn't lose my mind. Drink a 6-pack of beer so I wouldn't lose my mind and fall asleep for a couple hours. It was horrendous. And then I got into a lot of suicidal, attempts, and I ended up in mental hospitals, and I just didn't want to be on this planet anymore. Life was too freaking painful. And I ended up, basically, when it all came down, I took a whole bunch of different bottles of pills, and I ended up in a coma for 2 days. And I was in the emergency room, and I wanted out, and something happened to me that changed my life, and I can't really, I've had people ask me, do you really think that was God? And I have to say, honestly, I don't know, but I've been sober over 30 years now because of this experience. So I don't care if it was God, my experience in AA and working these steps and this fellowship and my spiritual experiences within the program are basically, what I rest my hat on as far as my higher power. But anyways, while I was in the coma, this energy or whatever it was talking to me, but I could not hear it in my brain. I don't know how I was hearing it, but I was hearing something. And I was hearing it in a different way that I never heard before. And it basically said, you know what? It was like complete and utter, of love. There was no judgment, no making me feel bad about where I was in my situation and how I'd lived my life up to that point. Unconditional love completely. Like that, whatever that was, that's all I knew how to do, was just love unconditionally. And it just said, you can leave. It's okay. We understand. You can go on to your next assignment or whatever. And then it said, or you can stay if you'd like. And I think I asked a question that changed my life forever. I said, if I stay here, will you help me? And it said, yeah, we'll help you. And at that moment, I completely came out of the coma. I sat up in the emergency room bed, and my best friend, who's been sober 10 years now, comes walking in to the emergency room. And I really, to this day, do not know how he found me. But I jumped off the gurney and I signed myself out, and that was October 6, 1990. And my life has never been the same. And I've had ups and downs, and I've had things that that I've had to learn, and things I've struggled with, and I've had to grow up. But I've always, that was the seed was planted in that emergency room, and I've always, no matter what I'm going through, I don't doubt I'm going to get that help. It promised me, that it said, we will help you. And and it's been 31 years, and it's never let me down. Never let me down. It gave me the strength to raise my daughter. It gave me the strength to, when I came in, when I was new, my first year, man, I struggled. I had some dark nights and stuff, but nothing like I'd experienced before. And always with that sense of, I know I'm going to get the help I need. I just know it. And I can remember my first, I went and lived with my friend Jim for 90 days. I stayed in his apartment. He kind of just took care of me for 90 days. And I went to meetings. I got a sponsor. I started going to meetings every day. And that was, and the old timers told me, my mind, it wasn't working very well. I still had a lot of issues and things going on. And I remember this old timer said, you know what? Your only job is to stay sober and go to meetings right now. And if a job pops up that you can do, then you're going to do it. But you're going to wait till that happens, and you're just going to show up every day, and you're just not going to drink, and you're going to keep going. And, and eventually a job popped up. And eventually, I was strong enough to handle things that used to baffle me, And so I started to wake up. I really started to wake up, and I started to have, one of my first, and I always say that my sobriety is laced with a string of miracles. I would get to a point where, I didn't, I thought, well, and I would go into doubt or I'd go into fear, and I'd always get a miracle that kept me going, And I remember my first major miracle in AA was 90 days sober. I had a panic attack, and I was, I thought, oh my God, it's all a bunch of bullshit. I'm not really healed. This is not real. I'm going to end up back where I was with all those horrible feelings in that darkness. And, but anyways, I was at my friend's apartment. No one was home. It was New Year's Eve. It was, almost 1991. And I had a major panic attack, and I had to get out of his apartment, and I walked down the sidewalk of his apartment, and I knew that if I turned left, I was going to 7-Eleven, and I was going to get something to deal with this panic attack. But I also knew if I turned right, there was the AA Windsor Club in Glendale, and if I got myself walking there, then maybe I could get some help when I got there. And I started praying as I walked down that sidewalk. And when I got to that side, I turned right. I just said, God, please let me turn right. Please let me turn right. And I turned right, and I got to the club. A friend of mine saw me there, and I was white as a sheet. And he said, wait, what's the matter? And I just did something for the first time I don't think I had ever done in AA before, or in my healing or anything. I just, I got up in his face, and I said, Joe, I need help. And he called his wife, and he thought he was going to have to take me to the emergency room or something. He could really see me just being a complete mess. And he said to me, anyways, he talked to his wife, and his wife said, well, put him to work, have him do something. They were decorating the club for the New Year's Eve dance, and all these people were running around decorating and being involved in the program and being involved and being of service. And he goes, you want to do some work around here? And I go, I'll do anything. Just tell me what to do. And he goes, well, there's a bench. There's like a bench where they slide the table underneath. All the tables for the AA, the meetings. And he goes, that bench is like, that whole table bench thing is really plain. Do something with it. So I had all these decorating things. So I took some paper, and I wrapped the whole thing in paper, and I drew wheels on it, and I put windows on it, and I drew I put a bus drive. I turned it into a city bus, and I had people hanging out the window, and I spent all day there just doing this artwork, and all of a sudden I was around my friends, I was around help, and that night at the dance, I was like, I was just in a completely different vibration. I was like happy. I was dancing. I felt safe. I just knew that these people could help me, if I just did what they told me to do, and I did. And the best part of that story is when I was 10 years sober, my friend Joe, who helped me that night or that day, he came to my AA birthday and he gave me a gift. And when I unwrapped it, it was a picture of it was a framed picture of the bus that I'd made back then that day that saved my life, you know? And I'll never forget that. And then that was like the beginning of, wow, if I hang in there, there's something's going to show up for me. If I hang in there, something's going to show up for me. And because I'm one of those guys that they talk about in the big book where it talks about, you know, we went into the gates of insanity and death. Into the gates. It doesn't say up to the gates. It says into the gates of insanity. I was emotionally and mentally, distraught, and I wasn't, you know, I didn't have the capability to live on this world, you know, without these miracles and the spiritual help in this program. And it took me 10 years to learn it, but I've learned it to the point where I've gotten to be able to stay sober one day at a time for 31 years. So, you know, and no one, you know, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but for me, I'm really, really grateful that I had, you know, and I've met a lot of people that have slipped in this program, and I got to a point where I thought, well, maybe I've run out of recoveries, you know, and the truth is, if you do it, it works, no matter who you are. Universal truth works for anyone and everyone who takes the time and puts a little effort in and gets down on their knees and says, please help me, you know, and that's been my experience. And I can go on and on. I'm running out of time, but, I went from somebody that couldn't work the first year to somebody that have started business, sold businesses, owned my own home, raised my daughter. You know, I live a life that looks frickin' normal, you know. I go into people's house to give them an estimate. They have no idea, you know, that they think I'm normal, you know, and the reason I can project the energy of normalcy is because of this program and you people. So, we do it together, you know. We're not alone. And you can go at any time you want. You can walk into an AA club and you can say, hey, I need help, you know, and there'll be people there to help you, you know. Just lose your pride. And, I was talking to a friend tonight, and one of the things I had to do when I first came in and I was new, I just had to become a patient. You know, I'm not the doctor, man. I am a patient. And as long as I stay that way and I stay open, and I'm willing to be helped, I'll be okay. And I hold that thought for all my friends in AA. So I want to thank you guys for asking me to share. It's been a real privilege, and I know a lot of you there, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks.